Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News, and we have a great conversation today to get into. I'm calling her my guardian angel. It's reporter and badass extraordinaire, Megan Fox. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Good. You know, time flies, right? And we haven't spoken in a bit, but how you been?
It's been a while. It's been a while, and it felt really weird at first, like not talking to you every day. Very strange.
Yeah, you have this sort of hippie Aquarius thing happening here. I like it. This is very
Oh,
nice.
thank you. Thank you. But I've
News.
been good. I've just been really busy trying to cover other cases. David Jingers is making that very difficult for me to do.
Yeah, you know,
Uh,
it's kind of nice. It's like you have your own career and life, and I have mine, and then we kind of unite over the absurdity of the Clayton Echard versus Laura Owens case. What's it been like the last few weeks? I mean, for me, it feels like it's been a quiet time, and Laura missed the attention. Like, what could possibly be happening now?
well, I'm starting to wonder that myself. Like, why do you stir things up if David Jingers keeps saying that his client wants to be left alone. Then we leave her alone and then they stir something up. And so we have to talk about it, or he starts drunk tweeting or whatever it is he's doing at 3 a.m. I don't know if he's drinking or not, but it seems strange.
I've got people that are concerned for him that are saying this, and I think you tweeted and others tweeted to the Arizona bar. Isn't it wild to think that they have done nothing to interfere with a man who's got like a sort of a duty and a license by the state to protect his client? It seems so volatile for them to just let this go down.
It does, but you have to understand that bar associations they're reticent to take any action against lawyers unless it's absolutely necessary. So that usually requires really egregious things like getting a DUI or getting caught with drugs or something like that. And even then, you won't lose your license. You'll just get it suspended or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
I kind of think of it as like human resources. They are there to protect the corporation, not you. And in any way
yeah.
possible, like it just felt like an old boy when I talked to them because I spoke on the phone with them and I was like, look, here are the things he's saying. He's threatening my family, all this. They didn't really seem to care about it. And it felt like an old boys club. They reassured me that they were going to have him tone it down. And then when it finally came out, I received criticism that it wasn't worded right. And I was like, look, I just wanted to get on paper what absurdities I see are happening. So here's what Jingris tweeted, I guess, this morning. He's an early riser. This was at 7:30 a.m., although I don't know if that's his time or mine. So yesterday he was dunked on when people proved that Laura was lying about the photo upload. It doesn't even really matter. Well,
Mhm.
he responded with this. Folks, I have proof Laura did not lie about the photo in her Medium article. I'd normally post that here, but maybe it's time for a different approach. Why not take this to court? Debates on X aren't helping, so maybe a jury can help clear this issue up. Good idea? Ready, Dave? Question mark.
Is he talking about the photo she used in the Medium article that was so clearly photoshopped?
Yes. So now it seems as though I've taken this as a threat that he wants to take me to court or maybe the people who posted the photo to court. But it just doesn't seem like this is what you would want to do. Like if I'm Laura, I have to be wondering, is he trying to keep me out of jail or is he focused more on drumming up his own publicity?
Every time he says he can prove she's not lying, he never proves she's not lying. So, and I don't know what he would take anyone to court for thinking that that picture is photoshopped when it's clearly, first of all, somebody put up the two yesterday or the day before, and he said, Laura says 1,000,000% she never posted that one on the right. But we have an archived Medium post that shows she did post it. So there she lied about that to him.
Yeah, and then apparently he sort of changed the framing of what people were accusing her of doing. Not what it's a he basically just diverts and then like anyone who gets dunked on, they just move to the next thing. Like we don't get any answers about Chase J. Jones or Fiverr. I mean, I don't think once he's discussed the Fiverr ultrasound or the laptop once it was proven to be real. He kind of just like let it slowly go away. So my question for you, we talked about this right before we went on air, is do you think it's beneficial to even mention him? Should we ignore him? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because somebody left a message, like a comment on my YouTube page the other day. I was trying to find it, but I can't find it. But it basically said something like, I wish Dave and Megan would realize that David Jingers is getting exactly what he wants out of them. They're saying his name over and over, giving him the attention that he desires. And, it's feeding that, whatever that thing is, he wants to be internet famous, or I don't know. He likes attention. I don't know. And it got me thinking, like, well, maybe that's true. But at the same time, if he's going to be out there talking all this crap and continuing to, like, threaten people, etc., well, we can monetize that. We can monetize him and in his nonsense. So it's like a catch-22, really. I mean, we're kind of relying on each other. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to be crazy and he wants attention. The attention we give him will grow our channels and give us, get us paid. So I don't know.
What annoys me is that I know if I saw him in person, just like everyone who's spoken on the phone with him, is that he's probably a reasonable guy, but it doesn't take away the threats he made. And I can't get past what he did to my wife by making those threats to a pregnant woman and the vulnerability there. I can't get past it to the extent where I don't think I've ever been and harbored so much, I guess, hatred for somebody over how malicious they could be and for what. So it wasn't going to change the outcome of the trial. He was just trying to get some heat off of his client. So I've talked about it in the past how, like in hockey, there's a thug who you hire to be just the enforcer. They can't shoot a goal. They can't do anything. They can just intimidate others. And I go, if that's all he was hired for, how foolish of him to really accept that paycheck if he was even getting paid for it. So I understand the idea of like not talking about him. I don't put him in my thumbnails. I don't make memes out of him. A lot of times I'll just refer to him as Laura's attorney, and maybe I'll just stop using his name entirely. But it's not even like I'm upset on a sort of a visceral level, like, man, F that guy. But like, when I do think about it, I can't get past what he did to my family to try to win just a segment of an argument. It's really, really below the belt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's done worse things to you than anybody else. I think what we found out about him, though, is that he's a paper tiger. He threatens lawsuits that he doesn't really intend to file. He is different than this other lawyer that I've been covering in a different case who definitely files lawsuits. He's very litigious.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So give me the whole, like, tell me exactly what's going on, because
Oh God,
I hear it's wild.
the TLDR.
Give me the 1 minute version, I guess.
Oh God, I'm going to try real hard. There's YouTubers involved. Jeremy Hales, he's got a big channel called What the Hales. He's a adventure seeker, treasure hunter. They buy storage units, etc. And he's been filming his life for years. And he has almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So he has by all accounts, successful channel. He moves to Otter Creek, Florida for his winter business, so that he's not in Ohio, where he's from, where it's cold. So he's going to be a snowbird in Florida. And Otter Creek is just the craziest place. And there's the weirdest people there. And he gets these neighbors. There's like meth heads leaving garbage all over his property. And like, it's a nightmare. And he's filming this while trying to get it cleaned up. And then he ends up getting into a fight with the town over some water or whatever. So he's in the town meetings. And now he's discovering like there's all this weird, long standing corruption and the water's contaminated and this and that. There's just all sorts of stuff happening. But in the meantime, somebody moves across the street from him on a piece of property that used to be a dump, and she's a fan. And she had watched the show and moved to Otter Creek thinking that land prices were going to go up because Jeremy Hales bought this 70 acres across the street. And she tried to make friends with them, and they were friendly for a little while. And then all of a sudden she's asking him for access to his audience to help her turtle rescue. And he's like, no. And ever since he told her no, things got nasty. Started opening up Facebook accounts, trashing him, trashing his girlfriend, trashing their reputation, saying terrible things about them. Signs went up in Otter Creek that said Jeremy Hales is an ARPist. If you know what I mean. Yes. Ohio, stop the Ohio ARPist. Jeremy Hales ARPed my daughter. Like really bad stuff. And so eventually, after tons and tons of this, he sent a cease and desist. They wouldn't stop. So then he goes to an Ohio court to get a restraining order because they were doing it in Ohio too. They were like contacting people he knows and saying bad stuff. And he got the restraining order in Ohio. Come to find out that Florida won't enforce it, even though they're supposed to. So then she files one against him. They end up in court, and there's this crazy battle with this judge who's super biased towards her, towards the plaintiff.
So to pick up, this is where I started to cover it, or like at least consume it, and it almost felt like the judge was anti Jeremy Hales because he was a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that kind of issue we had with Laura Owens with that honorable duty, where these older judges don't really understand what's going on in the world, and they think of a YouTuber as just somebody who's like a punk and like a trickster or whatever. Jeremy Hales, like, he runs a successful business, and probably brings a lot of economic, he brings that all to Florida, so he should be good for that local town. So yeah,
he was planning on doing Airbnbs on his property to bring visitors to Otter Creek and do a whole thing. Like he was going to. Oh, there's no way he's doing that now. There's no way. He would have brought so much tourism to that place.
So where does it stand right now? Now the attorney, so the neighbors have hired a litigious attorney?
So this is so strange. So she was pro se for a while. Then she raised some money to hire a lawyer. He ended up telling her to dismiss the case against Jeremy after they delayed it for so many months. I mean, almost a year. He had no rights because the thing was granted against him temporarily. A temporary harassment order was granted against him
by the neighbor. So like he had issues. He couldn't
even drive on his own road. It was crazy. This is why the judge got removed eventually, because he was so over the top in his bias against Jeremy Hales. They had never had an evidentiary hearing in 11 months. It was crazy.
So he was able to get the judge removed. That's a pretty big deal.
It was a huge deal. It was by writ of prohibition, and the appellate court ruled that Judge Grudge DeBiases, we call him, his name is DeThomases. We call him DeBiases. The appellate court ruled that he had to go because his actions were obnoxious. He never let the defendants speak. He never let the defendants' lawyers speak. He was always screaming at them. So anyway, she eventually dropped it because by the time when the judge got removed and they went in front of a new judge, that judge wasn't going to play. And he would see there was no evidence of Jeremy Hales harassing this woman, Lynette Preston. So she dropped it. She dropped it completely under the terms that she wouldn't owe any attorney's fees for bringing it. So he couldn't go after her for sanctions, and she would just drop the harassment. But Jeremy had already sued her in federal court. And federal court, he's suing her for defamation, for interference with his business, and for tortious interference, like some tort claims. So though that lawsuit looks pretty good to me, because the defamation is defamation per se. We're talking about the signs, if he can prove she wrote them, which he has an expert who says it's her handwriting. Wow. And she had no attorney for a while until this one attorney, who I don't even want to say his name, but we'll call him Deuce. This one attorney, Deuce, decides he's going to enter this case for free, pro bono for her, from another state, pro hoc vice in, which is just to apply in federal court in another state, and then the court can accept you or not. And he got accepted. And he's been very much like Jingers, where he came in to blow it all up and to try this case on social media. He believes that the best defense for her is to just be all over social media, lobbing more defamation towards Jeremy Hales and those of us who are covering it and who see his side of it. He's already filed a lawsuit now so he's defending her in the federal lawsuit, and he's been involved in filing 2 lawsuits now in state court using a different lawyer in Florida, but he's admitting that he's writing all these lawsuits. He filed one for copyright claims against Jeremy Hales, Larry Foreman, who is the DUI guy plus, who's a law tuber who I know very well, is a good friend. He filed one against Jeremy for using her picture in thumbnails. This is the picture that they got off of a public court hearing that was broadcasted. So she has no right to that.
Anyone can try to sue anybody, but how does that even? I mean, does the judge have to decide? like I fear that judges don't understand technology and what a thumbnail is and the rights that exist. Like when Laura Owens came after all of us on YouTube for copyright issues, YouTube did the right thing, looked into it, and knew what the law was. I almost trust YouTube knowing the law more than a random judge would. You know what I mean? Not to say I don't trust
No, because
judges,
they're
but
not
like they
they're
don't
not really up to date, right? I mean, it depends on who you get. I will say that I do believe this lawsuit will be thrown out. It's just that it's a whole process now. You have to get a lawyer. Larry had to get a lawyer, and Jeremy has to defend himself. And he also sued DJ Radis, he's a YouTuber with a satire channel. It's all satire and parody. And parody and satire are 100% protected in the United States under the Constitution. There is no way that they can sue him, but they're doing it because he hasn't been served, though. They can't find him. Nobody knows where DJ Radis lives, and they have been unable to serve him. So far he hasn't had to defend himself, and hopefully he won't have to. I think he's in Australia. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. He could be in a different country too.
it seems that a lot of times trouble can find people that have something worth taking. And in today's world,
Oh yeah.
you're Joe Rogan, people care about him because you can use his name and you can steal from that equity, that name recognition for your own good. If you want to write a slam piece about him in the New York Times or whatever the case may be, like that's how you know you've made it, when your name is worth something to somebody else. So that's the reason why Bachelor Clayton got the trial that he did, was because we were able to use his name to bring light to it. But also it's the reason why someone like
Why
Jingers
he's a
will
target.
work for free.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, this is exactly why this lawyer did this, by the way. He thinks that there's going to be $1 million payout for him because he sees dollar signs where Jeremy Hales' name is concerned. And he also sees it where Larry Foreman is concerned. He's got over 350,000 followers, right? Maybe even more than that, subscribers on YouTube. He thinks that he's going to get his hands on YouTube money, on YouTubers' money. And he's now threatening to go after me and Tug, and which is that umbrella guy, and other creators who covered this story, claiming that we are doing cyberbullying and harassment under the guise of journalism. Now, does that sound familiar to you, Dave?
it sounds like it would be something worth losing 50 pounds over. I mean, yeah, this idea that you clap back at somebody with the truth and then they get offended. Because I see this all the time in my community. Someone called me an idiot this morning and I responded to them being like, really? An idiot? Really? And then inevitably they go, but I was a member of your Patreon. I'm unsubscribing. And it's like, oh, shut up. Like, the point I'm trying to make is people, when they're treated with the just energy, they can't handle when that they were being an a-hole in the first place. So someone like Laura Owens relentlessly harassing and threatening extortion with a $1.4 million, I'll sue you if you don't drop this, and I'll do this if you don't do that, I'll kill myself if you don't do that. It's like, then you cover the case and somebody who is already volatile loses weight because they're under the stress of their own actions, and we're supposed to feel bad about it, and we're the bullies. Like, whatever
And
happened to
also,
accountability?
you have the right to have an opinion in this country. It's protected. And if you have an opinion about somebody's public actions, you're allowed to say it. You're allowed to broadcast it. You're allowed to talk about it. And one of the things that the criticism that's always lobbed at us is that what we are doing is not newsworthy. It isn't newsworthy, this one girl in Maricopa County, or this one person who lives across the street from Jeremy Hales. But that's all relative. It's newsworthy if there's an audience for it. And I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt there's an audience for the What the Hales story. There's an audience for the Laura Owens story. So just because CNN isn't covering it, or Fox News, or this, it gets down to the basic question of who is news, who is media. And in America, you don't get to say that. Nobody gets to define who is the news and who is media. If you want to be a journalist, you can be one. And no government can tell you that you're not one, which means the courts can't tell you that you're not media either, which means media applies whether or not you do your journalism on YouTube, or you do it on Medium, or you do it on Substack, or you do wherever you do it, your own blog, your own vlog. Jeremy Hales does a whole bunch of citizen journalism. He's been covering town hall meetings in Otter Creek. He's been uncovering scandals there. He didn't think he was going to end up doing that. He's a treasure hunter, but he's been doing citizen journalism because he fell into this really weird place. And
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of these people, Dave, these lawyers, these bad lawyers with bad intentions who want to take what we do and turn it into something sinister and bad. I
Yeah,
hate that.
like YouTube's a free market, right? You can cover this, and if people don't watch, they don't watch. It's like only going to make money if people want to watch and support. And journalism in the traditional sense, newspapers have all been eradicated. I remember when I go home to my hometown in Rhode Island, the Newport Daily News used to be like this thick newspaper, and
Yeah.
it had all the stories and it had the local happenings. It is gone. So the only way you can expose something, like you're not, I mean, sure, you'll have like a spotlight investigative group that comes out of these random Chicago or Boston, these random markets that still have a bastion of like journalism, but it's people like you that can take the time and go, you know what? There is a dollar to be made. So because look, times, you're a mom, you got bills to pay. I gotta feed my kid and my wife, and I can't just be doing things for free. Would I have covered this case and
Right.
put myself on the line if I wasn't making a buck? Absolutely not. So the carrot on the end of the stick is irrelevant. What's important is that if there is an injustice or if there is a movement that's being made, like that we have a place that can take place. For Laura Owens, she could have just, if I was Laura Owens' mom, give me your phone, gone, Reddit, gone, YouTube, gone. Go down there, go get a job and live your life. No one's going to Barry's boot camp and yelling at her. Go live your fucking life. And
Mm-hmm.
none of this exists. And for whatever reason, she's hired a lunatic who's throwing gasoline on her issues.
And that's what's happening in the Hales case too. This lunatic Deuce, he is threatening to sue me and Tug and others under RICO of all things, which is never going to go anywhere. RICO is for organized crime. There is no crime being committed here. There have never been any crimes committed here on YouTube talking about public stories in court cases. It's not a crime. And there is, though, a faction of people who would like to see it be a crime, who would like to see, and I think it really kicked off after the Johnny Depp trial, this mainstream media hatred for YouTube channels that cover court cases, and because they feel like we're intruding on their territory, and so they gang up on us and write hit pieces about how YouTubers are making all this money on trials and turning trials into entertainment and how terrible that is. Oh, holy God. Trials have always been entertainment. From the very beginning of court systems in general, people back in 200 years ago would show up and sit in court just to be entertained. That there's nothing else to do. There's no Nintendo.
Yeah,
There's just
you can rubberneck and it doesn't change the accident, right? Like they're like as citizens of the country, we want to watch justice play out. There is nothing more entertaining than watching justice play out, which, by the way, is what's going
and
to
educational.
yeah,
Education.
and that's what's going to make the documentary as it stands right now so insane when it ends with saying these three men have restraining orders against them. I mean, that's literally going to be the title card that ends it as far as it goes right now, is like after everything that was said and done, these
Yeah.
men have restraining orders against them. So yeah, the reason why the reason why this is important, your case, the thumbnail case, and this, it's because you can't let precedent be set where you can just make up medical documents. It might not seem like a big deal, but if that's the world we're going to live in, then like Laura's just a little bit ahead of the curve in that she knows how to use PDF to alter things. That's going to be like a Siri command on your phone, like, please alter this document. And it's just going to do it. And we're going to live in a world where you just get away with whatever your truth is. And that's just, with the way AI is going, that's not a place we need to live. And if it comes down to having to sue people to stop them from creating a reality that's damaging to you, then these cases are going to be like the beginning of prosecutors actually investigating crimes, actually holding people accountable to people that are perjuring themselves and just getting away with it.
I think we do need a better understanding, though, in our court system about what YouTube is. I think we need a better definition as far as YouTube shows like ours and things that and people who cover court cases, et cetera, I almost feel like, the law is very slow to catch up. If you look at most laws about, even if it's about cyberbullying, that those are new laws, that would be, it only covers like email and, I don't know. It's just interesting how the courts need to catch up. And I would love to see like a push to recognize that, media can be done anywhere, especially on YouTube, because I feel like that's like almost an unprotected area at the moment because people just don't see it that way. And it has this negative connotation, maybe because of, like you were talking about, pranksters and weirdos that do things that annoy people and that are harassing to people. Certainly that isn't what we're doing. That isn't the point of our channels. Certainly has never been of mine. I prefer to educate people about the court system and about our judicial rights and things that we have the right to, and how does court work and what do these motions mean. But one of the things that was really scary to me was that in the thumbnail lawsuit, Deuce alleges that Jeremy Hales, and by extension then all YouTubers really, that Jeremy Hales fabricated a false reality narrative, and made his client, Lynette Preston, the star of a fake reality show. Now, this is really creative because I see where he's going with this, but also, how do you create a fake reality plot when someone is actually doing these things to you? This would be, he could go after, us about the Laura Owens case for that too, saying they're fabricating a fake reality show by following this poor woman around. Everything she does, they comment on everything. And she's the main character. And like I see like the creativity of this thought process, but that can't possibly be true. Because no one's creating any false reality. It just is what something happens, we report on it. That's news.
Yeah. And the idea that we're just pulling things out of thin air and making up storylines, it's like, yeah, you're allowed your opinion based on what's going on. And when they pull you into the news, it's like, I think the fear is that YouTubers have a platform to get the truth out there. And there is a lot of shame. There's a lot of like financial shame with how people make their money, as if Tom Brokaw is entitled to his paycheck, but you aren't. It's just absolutely,
I know.
And we obviously see that from a mile away when someone's trying to financially shame us. Like that's completely irrelevant to how it all goes down. Well,
Anderson Cooper makes like $20 million a year.
Yeah, the old Vanderbilt over there, right?
Yeah, it's like, we're not even close to that. Why are we even talking about our small incomes on YouTube or whatever, medium incomes, large incomes? They're nowhere near the mainstream press. I just don't like this idea of, if it was 2020, by the way, doing like an in-depth series on somebody, I don't know, anybody, just some random person that was, ripping people off. And they did let's say a 3-part series. They would never be accused of making a fake reality drama. Although some of these news organizations absolutely make up fake narratives for these types of story. They will set things up. Remember, one of them set Ford trucks on fire once. And they were saying, oh, this Ford truck is really dangerous. Look at it self-explode. And then it didn't. They were doing it. They were like hitting the button and making it explode. So they got caught. So news agencies have done all kinds of terrible things. But they have a very wide berth of things they can do because they're solidified as media. But
yeah.
And YouTube somehow, it's different. And by the way, I want to know which one of us talked Laura into writing a new Medium article saying that the reason she lied about all these men is because she has autism. Which one of us set her up for that? Did we make her do that? Or did she do that with the advice of her counsel and then we report on it?
Yeah, I know. It's an unfair idea that we're supposed to remain quiet because someone's losing weight over their own, fraud that they've committed. Look, I mean, I'm going to be trying to do a better job of covering that case that you're covering. And anyone who's a fan of mine is a fan of yours because you've been there from the beginning to defend me. And I appreciate that so much. And I kind of wish it was over. There's none of this like, oh, bring the whole gang back. It's like, let's move on. But
I wish it was over too. And he won't let it go. she won't let it go. This would be over if they stopped right now, kept their heads down, and that's what any good lawyer should be telling her to do. Keep your head down, stay quiet, don't say anything, because you're under investigation right now, baby. You're under investigation criminally. So you need to be quiet. I've never seen a lawyer offer up his client who's under criminal investigation for interviews. Now, I don't personally think he's actually going to do any. I think he's bluffing for attention or whatever. But I can't, the advice there is so bad from a legal standpoint that I can't even stand it. And I don't know, the only time we would come back to talk about this is when the county attorney makes her decision whether to charge or not.
Yeah, new information. And also, when she tries to inevitably rewrite the story, we'll just come back with the proof that she's lying, if that's what she wants to do. We've got thousands of people with the bandwidth to come together and correct that misremembrance of what went down. So look, I appreciate you stopping by and giving me some insight into this other case. I hope it doesn't cause you too much stress. And yeah, we'll have to do a live stream soon and get the gang back together to keep this story on the right and narrow here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dave. And as always, I appreciate what you do too. Keep it up. You're the hardest working man on YouTube that I know. And your schedule is something that I aspire to.
Yeah, I want to aspire to toning it down a little bit. So I'll be trying to.
I hear you.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks again and have a good one. Okay.
Thanks, Dave.